Hi everybody, welcome to the talk. It's kind of special because on its premiere I have two testing guys here. And as opposed to the previous talk, which is awesome, and in which we heard how things should be, we are going to take a step back and actually look at the possibilities and options when you want to get into the testing. So let me introduce myself. I'm what they call a developer. Yeah. I own a small company called Code for Hire. We are consultants, mercenaries. We are writing terrible code that perform exceptionally. We are wrangling with elephants and pythons on a daily basis. So if you're new to software testing, you have a long road ahead of you. It is fraught with perils, with dragons, and idiots, not particularly in that order. Let me illustrate this. Because we stand on the shoulders of giants and nobody actually has the time for proper books, we rely on Google to bring us the bits of knowledge that we need to get started. So let's do a search for software testing. You get 94.3 million results. Let's try to narrow that down by looking for software testing PHP. You get 47.9 million results. Maybe we should try it in reverse order. So we do PHP software testing. You get 48.1 million results. Maybe we should try to narrow this down, but just looking for PHP software test. 81.9 freaking million results. The only possible and justified reaction to this is desk flip mode on. Now, if you actually dare to sift through all this crud, you will probably find less than 1,000 articles that are of any use. And this is discounting for the translations, for the duplicates, for the glory-hounding plagiarists, for the basically idiots that are trying to tell you you're wrong. And during this reading, you will encounter terms like SUT, TDD, BDD, code coverage, integration testing, web testing, unit tests, given, when, then, specs, stories, etc. At this point of your journey, they're about as useful as an STD. But I digress. You have read what you could read. You feel confident that you can take the task of actually testing your code base. So you take a look at it. You try to fill with the tests. You try to wrap them and bend them around your code base without actually trying to refactor it. And after a few time units, hopefully hours, things will come to their logical conclusion. Yeah. So now you will have your first realization. And that is that between your accumulated acumen gained by reading and actual implementation of the said acumen lies a valley, a vast, barren, desert valley, scorched with suns of deadlines that claim the lives of many developers and holds the bleached bones of many projects. Not only that, it actually holds a foe. Just one foe. Let me introduce you to your arch nemesis, the source snake. Not only will you have to cross the valley of the tests, you will have to battle with the source code all the time, and hence the source snake. Now this sucker might not look like much, but as most things in life are deceiving, appearances can be wrong. Believe me, this one has power. Now, because I had a strange urge for coloring, consider this foe white hot, and to successfully traverse this valley, we need to have it cool blue. So, the art of testing, as most things in our profession are, is an acquired skill. And it needs to be kept sharp to be any kind of useful. Simplest way to do this is to take this skill and practice. And as we can be lazy people, sometimes it is hard to think of a problem that you need to solve and test it. Luckily for us, there are a lot of smart people that came to the same conclusion and wanted to do the same, and they started collecting interesting problems that can be solved and tested and call them code katas. Now, there are a lot of articles available, but if you really want to get into it, the easiest way is to visit CyberDojo. This is a website that holds a collection of problems that you can solve in a variety of programming languages. Or, if you're not squeamish about Python, you can also check checkio.org, which is a quest-based game where you progress as you write the code that satisfies the test. There might be more sources like this out there, but these are the ones that come to mind. Having said this, it might actually be a good idea to do one kata warm-up before you actually start working every day. So now you have some testing experience under your belt, and you want to level up more by using what you have learned and practiced so far on the code that you write. It's a perfectly grand idea, except for this teensy-weensy problem of where to start. The rule of the thumb is look for the money. If your application has any kind of accounting, subscriptions, shopping cart, whatever, those are to test. You can start with them, you can verify the results by pen and paper, and you can take it from there. If you don't have something like that, you find any kind of calculation or dealing with numbers in your application and start from there. As you start testing your code, you will notice that there is a room for optimization and refactoring. There is quite a lot of material out there, and I'm not going to go into it. The best thing you can do is check out the talk by Rafael Doms called Your Code Sucks, Let's Fix It, to get all the right ideas of what to do. Maybe some of your functions call other functions or other classes, and if you don't do something about it, soon your tests will become slow and unmanageable mess to work with. So to help you with these situations, where you need to isolate your functions, you can use the test doubles. What are test doubles? In his book, X-Unit Test Patterns, Jared Messerage defines the test doubles as the generic term for any kind of object that can be used in place of a real object for testing purposes. The name comes from the notion of stunt double in the movies. Messerage defined four kinds of test doubles: dummies, fake, stubs, and mocks. For the time being, much to the chagrin of the comp sci bros, you should pretend that dummies and fakes do not exist and do not matter. But you should actually learn the difference between mocks and stubs. Because I've seen rabbit testists actually tear newbies apart because they feel they should know this. Yeah. So, what are mocks? Mocks are objects that are used to define expectations, and for example, method A should be called with such and such parameters, and mocks will record and verify such expectations. As opposed to stubs, they do not record or verify the expectations, but rather allow us to replace this behavior, state the fake object in order to utilize a test scenario. A mouthful, yeah, no. So, more on testing, you will hear later from Mike and Sasha today. Now that we have covered one aspect of testing, our source snake is 1/3 cool blue. We are going to proceed further into the valley of tests, where the sons of deadline scorch everything to death. Suppose you work in a place that has no appreciation for your needs of testing. Or you work in a place that is being run by pixel pushers when you're considered a necessary evil. Or you work in a shop that churns out WordPress setups every week. I don't know, maybe your level of masochism is larger than mine. Imagine a place where all that matters is a deadline and that the front end looks good, where you get bug reports ranging from this does not work up to and including upset.techbabble. And let's not forget those wonderful emails out of the blue that something doesn't work and you cannot reproduce it, it looks familiar, and then you look in your logs and you figure out that that has been fixed a couple of weeks ago and that the person who reported it actually reported it then, but it only arrived to you, and you lost a day or so trying to find this. These are always fun. So, in these cases, you should quit your job and go elsewhere to work. But in the off chance that that is not an option, let's look at the possibilities of what you actually can do. Best thing to do is to use web testing, or as some people call it, web acceptance testing. Your mileage may vary, as you heard from the previous talk. So what is web testing? Basically, it is a repeatable process where you will test the functionality of your web application by mimicking user-browser interaction. I'm aware that this is a simplistic definition, but to remember we are talking about beginners. So what are the tools that will allow us to do web testing? Those are Gout, Mink, Zombie.js, Casper.js, Conception, or Selenium. These are all the tools that will allow you to write some code that will be then transformed and emulated in a browser with the drivers, but it still leaves you with a problem of people writing wonky email bug reports and sending them to you in the emails. So what you can do about that is use something called a website recorder or a web recorder. Basically, it is a tool that you install in a browser that will record all of your actions and output it to some kind of file that you can then integrate it into your test suite. You will finally be able then to send that email, tests, or GTFO that you always wanted to send, properly worded to be more verbose and less offensive, hopefully. And I'm going to mention two tools here. If you're using Casper.js, your best bet is going to be Resurrectio browser extension. And if you're using Conception or Selenium, then your tool of choice should be Selenium IDE. Now, with these tools, the people that are reporting bugs can actually record them, export them to a file, and send them to you to integrate it into your unit test so you can reproduce and fix them. You can hear more about Conception from Luca later today. So we covered another aspect of testing, and the source snake is now 2/3 blue, cool blue. So we need now to proceed further into the valley where the speed and repetition is your only way to survive. If you manage to get this far, the number of tests you have written has increased significantly. Running them by hand is slow and tedious. You need some kind of setup to automate this. Luckily for us, such a thing exists. It's called a continuous integration server or a build server. It's a rather simple idea. A server monitors your repository, detects a new commit. When it detects a new commit, it triggers the test suite. If the test suite fails, you get a notification in your email, HipChat, Slack, RC, whatever your CI system supports. There are quite a few tools out there. Some of them are Jenkins, Bamboo, Travis, TeamCity, or new kids like Semaphore. You can hear about Travis and Semaphore later from Ivan and Darko. So now we covered yet another aspect. The source snake is cool blue. We are almost at the end of the journey. We should be fine. The snake has been calmed down. And then the unthinkable happens. The snake actually transforms and reveals the true enemy, yourself. I mentioned this before, but it is worth repeating. Testing is an acquired skill. It requires investment of time and constant practice, and it will pay off eventually. When starting testing, you should strive to achieve that aha moment, whether it is by it finally clicking with you or test actually saving your bacon during the next development cycle. And you should not be burdened by methodologies, because you will make mistakes and you will learn from them. This, probably more than any other area in software development, is quite difficult to get right and quite easy to get wrong. But the difference is that you keep at it and you will get better. Because remember, code with no tests is worse than code with bad tests, is worse with code with some tests, is worse than code with all the tests. And hunting for the 100% code coverage most of the times is impractical. But getting it to be more than 0 is an attainable goal, and you should strive for it. Once you're comfortable with writing tests, once you're aware that you actually need to test your code, that you should you should explore other methodologies, learn about the TDD, about the BDD, learn about the nuances and whatever else is out there. That is the moment you will exit the valley of the tests and start your new journey to becoming a software craftsman. And with that, I tell you, go forth and test. The end.